We have come to the 16th mantra of the Purusha Sukta. So, with this, the Rigveda collection of the 16 mantras will be over. Of course, we have to add the addendum of the Yajurveda. We will do it later. So, the last of the 16 mantras, which is also used in the 16-step worship stages, 16-step process of puja, it is Yajnena Yajnamayajanta Devaha Tane Dharmani Prathamanyasan Tehanakam Mahimanas Sachante Yatra Purve Sadhya Santi Devaha. So that is the mantra. So the meaning is Yajnena Yajnam Ayajanta Devaha. Devaha, all the divine beings in the beginning of the creation. Yajnena, through worship or through the method of worship. Yajnam, this primordial person, the cosmic person, Purusha, was Ayajanta worshipped. So you can see here, the yajna has been in 3 steps. The 3 steps as the purpose or dhyeya or the goal for doing the yajna. And that is yajna. And then the means are also known as the sadhana, that is to execute an action, is also yajna. Oh, the refrain. Okay. So the means is also yajna. So that means the goal or the dhyeya is yajna. The means by which a particular goal is achieved is yajna, and the act itself is yajna. Because in the very beginning of the creation, there cannot be duality or multiplicity. So the resolve you do something, the goal which you achieve by means of that resolution, and the process by which you achieve the goal, all the 3 must be same. So that is what is depicted here by saying your resolve is worshipfulness. The process of executing it is through worship, and the goal is worship. Worship not in the religious sense. It is acknowledging respectfully the presence of something. You acknowledge very respectfully the presence of creation. The presence of creation before it actually manifested into the 5 elements, for example, or before it manifested into the multiplicity of the beings. So whether the multiplicity of the beings or the primordial creation itself, all of that is either in potential form. The potential form is yajna. The potentiality expressing itself as multiplicity, that process is yajna. The purpose for which the one becomes the many is also yajna. This is why the mantra goes as Yajnena Yajnam Ayajanta Devaha. In the later Vedic thought, this Sankalpa Shakti of Yajna, that is the resolve to do this Yajna, came to be called as Ritam. So this Yajna in later Shastra becomes Ruta, and the assembly of the tools for performing this particular yajna is called Satyam, and the actual act of the yajna worship is called Dharma. So we have to use the word of the Veda, which is Yajnena Yajnamayajanta Devaha. Yajnena by means of the Rita or the cosmic order, using Satyam or truthfulness as the process, they created Dharma. So what is it we perceive in the world? We perceive in the world Dharma. That means the characteristic or the nature of things. It is the nature of water to be wet. It is the nature of fire to heat. But then from where did that ability to heat come into fire? It was embedded because the truthfulness of the fiery nature of fire. The fiery nature of fire is the expression of truth. The burning of the fire is its dharma. So dharma is burning of the fire. The fieriness of the fire is satyam, or the truth. And both of them are possible because of Rita, or the cosmic order. And therefore, by means of the cosmic order called Rita, which is yajna, the dharma which is to be practiced as the yajna, the process was through yajna called satyam. So on the face of it, this mantra looks very simple. But this is the whole range of the Indian thought has evolved from this one beautiful mantra. And then, so that means wherever, now what is its relevance to us today? Wherever our goal, the means, and the action are in harmony. Because otherwise, what is the goal? I go to work, not for the sake of working, but for the sake of getting paid. Isn't it? But as soon as that discordance is there, it ceases to be yajna. Getting paid is only absolutely an incidental outcome, that is all, but that's not the purpose for which we go to work. We go to work because I have the skill, which is my dharma. That skill I use at work for the sake of executing a project. And that is satyam. I do it truthfully, I do it dedicatedly. That is satyam. We will not even think of the outcome or the result or the benefit that comes out of it. Because the benefit that comes out of it is the responsibility of the cosmos, and it is not my responsibility. And that is the attitude of yajna that this mantra is talking about. So wherever there is the dhyaya, the sadhana, and the kriya, all of these things are yajna, then they become the primordial dharma. The very root of the entire existence of the creation, which is called dharma. That means, in other words, when an action, an activity is undertaken with a spirit of yajna, then such a function, such a resolve is also called as dharma. So how does our resolution become dharma? Only when it is based on yajna. And therefore they became devatas. Yajnena yajnam ayajanta devaha. They did not say yajnena yajnam ayajanta asuraha. Why is it they did not say? Because asura is one who is totally attached to his own body. Asu means one's own body. Therefore, one who is totally attached to only one's own physical existence is incapable of this attitude of dharma, rita, satyam. So the mantra is creating the standard with which dharma was established in the very beginning of time. That's why even to this day, whatever might have happened to the creation, that dharma cannot be violated, it cannot be compromised. Because we cannot change the progressive order of a child becoming a toddler, becoming a youth, becoming a middle-aged person, and becoming old and die. That sequence, no science can change. Why is it? Because it was created in the very beginning through yajna. In other words, suppose I have to create a template for my own life. and consider that my life is a success. How can I do it? Only when everything I do is with the attitude of yajna only. So the paradigm shift has to take place in our pursuit, in our life. So when you do that, what happens? When such a pursuit is taken, when such a lifestyle is chosen, what happens? The mantra says, Yajnena yajnamayajanta devaha. So they introduce the word dharma here. Tani dharmani. You note that the dharmani is a plural. So what is the plural word? Why is that plural number is used there? It is because every action is based on yajna, yajna, yajna. Rita, Satya, Dharma. When this Rita, Satya, Dharma becomes the basis of all our resolve, Sankalpa Shakti, the means sadhana, and the outcome, which is action, kriya, when that happens, what will you become? You will become a devata. You become a divine being. And when you become a divine being, where will you be? Tani dharmani prathamani asan. Prathama means first. Prathama means most important also. What is as many times I have mentioned, in Vedic study, we always, whatever the first one we say, first word, first sentence, first mantra we say, that is the most important mantra. Everything is an embellishment on the first statement. So what is the first statement? Prathamani. That Prathamani is yajna. Whoever follows this template of yajna, devataha purve. In the very beginning of the creation, purve, they became sadhyaha. What do you mean by sadhyaha? Sadhyaha means the achievers. Sadhana shilaha. So what exactly is the Vedic understanding of a person who has achieved something? Which one do we call as a pinnacle of achievement? A pinnacle of achievement is where again the sankalpa, the sadhana and the kriya, all those three are yajna. Then you become a sadhya. Then when you become a sadhya, then yatra santi, where are they? They are nakam. They are in nakam. Nakam is loosely translated as heaven. As heaven, as swarga. But you have to look at the etymology of the word nakam. Kam means joy, bliss. When the sound kam is prefixed by the prefix a, akam. A means negative. Kam is bliss. Akam means there is no bliss, there is no joy, there is no happiness. When you again prefix with the negative prefix na, means no lack of joy. Naka or swarga or heaven means a place where there is no lack of joy at all. Now the question is, why should the sage use a double negative? They could have simply said a place of joy, a place of bliss, isn't it? The reason they say is the use of the double negative is because wherever there is a discordance between the sankalpa, that is resolve, the dhyaya or the goal, or the upasana or the means, then there is discordance is involved. Let us say you have the most noble intention, the intention of yajna, but the means are not chosen properly. Because there is a popular saying which says that as long as the end is noble, you can choose any means. Haven't we heard of this? We have heard of this, isn't it? In the social discourse. But here it says even the means have to be yajna only. Your resolve must be yajna, the means must be yajna, the outcome must be yajna. Then only there is nakam. Otherwise there is a sense of guilt. Whatever altruistic jobs you might have done, but the means which you have adopted not being proper, it will actually prick us from within. Isn't it? So therefore, na akam means at the time of taking the decision to do something, during the process of accumulating the means to do it, and during the time when you are executing it, in all these three stages there should be nakam. And therefore double negative is used. So this nakam, what is the benchmark whether I have reached the stage? Every time you ask yourself, am I happy? Am I contented? Am I totally at peace with myself? If the answer is doubtful or in the negative, immediately we have to ask ourselves, what was my goal, dhyaya? What was my means, upakarana? And then what is the way in which I have executed it? So when that introspection comes, at least in future there is a scope for attaining nakam. So here the sage is recommending us to completely change our outlook of our lifestyle itself. So this nakam, let us say, is a state of the mind. So this nakam state of the mind, what does it make you? What does it make you? Mahimanam. He makes you a person of total self-satisfaction. The highest place where you can place yourself. So now look at the mantra. Yajnena yajnam ayajanta devaha. So the gods, the deities, the devatas, created the yajna through yajna by the resolve of yajna. Now this raises an interesting ontological question by asking you, were they devatas first and then they took up this project? Right? Or because they took this project they became devatas? The dhvani or the suggestion of the mantra is because they knew that this is the way in which a resolution has to be taken. They knew that this is how we have to accumulate our tools, and they knew that this is how I must act. They were devatas. So a devata is the one who is uncompromising in establishing this quality. And therefore, the sequence, whether the devatas created the yajnana yajnamayajanta, or because they created yajnana yajnamayajanta, they became devatas, becomes a moot point. When does it become a moot point? When yajnena yajnam ayajanta, that means the resolve, the collection of materials, and the execution, the quality is no different from the person executing. See, this is the subtle point here. Because in any project we take, the person who is executing the project qualitatively is different from the planning of the project, then accumulating the means for executing the project, and the outcome of the project, the action, it is separate, isn't it? Suppose you ask me to say that you go to the store and bring milk. I am not the act of going. I am not the act of wanting to bring milk. Wanting to bring milk is an act, isn't it? I am separate from that. I am separate from the milk. I am separate from the resolve. I am separate from the means of going and then getting the milk. You see the difference? But here it is not like that. Here all of them and the person who executes this is all one. So you want to give a personality to yajna, then it is devata. You want to see the way in which a devata can be recognized, it is yajna. So thus yajnena yajnamayajanta devaha is formatted. This mantra has been formatted in such a way. You can't see this kind of construction anywhere in other writings. So now we need a little bit of, so that means the yajna, all the three components of the yajna, the devatas who are executing the yajna, all of them become mahimanam. Yajnena yajnamayajanta devaha. So, but the presence or the existence or the contribution of every individual will leave a mark. It will leave a mark, whether it is in one family, to one person, or to a society at large. It is impossible for anyone to exist or leave this world without leaving a mark. At least the name will be there on somebody's birth certificate. So you leave a mark, isn't it? So what was the mark that these devatas left? They left an indelible mark on the entire creation by establishing dharma. Yajnena yajna. Multiple times you read this mantra to understand. Yajnena yajnamayajanta devaha. What did they do? Tane dharmani prathamanyasan. Asan also has got multiple meanings. One is they were the dharma. As dhatu actually can give you both the meanings. So they were themselves the dharma. They were the ones who established the dharma. And therefore, if there is any order at all in the creation, which you cannot violate, even the president with all his power cannot take off in his plane when there is a storm. Can he? In any safety? However good a tool he has got. Why is it they cancel so many of the launching of the satellites in Cape Canaveral? They will be always watching what happens to the weather, and we have seen even in the last minute they cancel the launching of the because you cannot violate the dharma established by the devatas. When? Purve. Yatra purve sadhya santi devaha. So, to simplify this, Krishna gives us an easy way out to understand this in the Gita. Look at chapter 3, verse number 10. Sahayajnah prajasrishtaha. All the creatures and yajna was created simultaneously in the beginning. Purovacha prajapatihi. Anena yajnena prasavishyadvam. After creating this world, he instructed the entire humanity, because humanity is responsible for preserving the dharma, whereas the lower animals are not. We have to take charge of dharma. So therefore, what did they say? Anena yajnena prasavishyadvam. It is with this yajna you prosper. So what is prosperity? What is growth? Prosperity and growth is where dharma is. If dharma is not there and there is the prosperity as understood by culture or civilization, it has no value for the Vedic sage. And then, Yesha Vostu Ishtakamadhuk, this combination of yajna and prosperity only will give you all that you want, all that you need, all that you should. Many others. Devan bhavayatanena anena yajnena. And then you have got chapter 4, verse number 31. I don't want to digress. I'll just give the verse numbers. Chapter 4, 31. Nayam lokosti ayajnasya. Even in this world you do not prosper and get any happiness without yajna. What about the other world? Because to go to heaven we are supposed to get merit, right? Without merit you cannot exist even in this world. And therefore that is the case for yajna. And Krishna also gives a precedent in verse number 20 of chapter 3 where he says, look at Janaka. They have achieved it. Look at number 9 of chapter 3. Yajnarthat karmanaha anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. You get bondage in the absence of yajna. You get freedom in the presence of yajna. So this mantra actually addresses our dominant spiritual quest. Usha and I were talking about in the lunch hour while I was walking, we were talking about, and she was mentioning about agnosticism, about belief in God, non-belief in God, and so on and so forth. So in philosophy, 3 trends have grown in Western philosophical thought, especially. One is where there are pessimists such as Sartre and others who says that life is meaningful only if there is no God. Because if you introduce God, it takes away our creativity and it takes away our ability to create a meaning for our own life. So there is one school of philosophical thought who wants to get rid of the idea of God because they want to create meaning by themselves and not with any divine help. So we call that group in philosophy as pessimists. Jean-Paul Sartre and others were pioneers in that. We will expand on this in the next class. Then we have the optimists who say that the existence of God is necessary for getting meaning in life. So there are some questions about that also. Then there is the third kind who are called neutralists, for whom God's existence has no effect either way. Now, how can we establish a principle of life which will help any of these 3 viewpoints? You don't want a God? Then do everything with yajna. You want God? Yajna is God. Right? Then you don't care about existence of God or not because you don't ask for any help from God. Then yajna and dharma is the means for you. So for all the 3 viewpoints, this mantra gives an answer. The one value, that is why this mantra doesn't talk about God in that sense. They only say you become divine if you follow this method. And what is divinity? Nakam. So beautiful mantra. I mean, I can go on expanding this concept. The whole wisdom is based on this one mantra. Yajnena yajnamayajanta devaha tani dharmani pratamanyasam tehanakam mahimanasya chante yatra purve sadhyas santi devaha. This is the reason why when we do Visarjana, we use this mantra.
I always wonder
Think about it. Because once you have understood the nature of the devatas, because you are worshipping the devata in the puja, isn't it? In a puja, what are you doing? You are invoking a devata and you are worshipping the devata. Devata becomes the role model because devata is the one who is yajnana yajnamayajanta devaha. And the devata you are worshipping is Mahimanam. And the devata is in Nakam. Having understood the devata as yajna, as one who established dharma, rata and satyam, and then leading to the Nakam, once you have known that, then you do the Visarjana of the symbol. That is why this mantra is used in Visarjana.